Crush and friend got together and are thriving while I'm here trying to not feel bitter. I know this might sound immature, but I don't really have anyone to talk to and I just need to let it out. All my life, I've felt like the third wheel, the supportive friend in someone else's story. And it's starting to hurt more than I want to admit. Last summer, I had an internship. I quickly became close with a group of girls who shared my same interests. We had a lot of fun together, exploring the new city and yapping. At first, the male and female interns mostly kept to their own sides, not out of malice but just different vibes. But there was one guy who started hanging out with us more and more. Let's call him Jay. Jay was ambitious, smart, and confident. The way he carried himself stood out to me. He shared a lot of his achievements, his family-oriented thinkings, and life views. They all resonated with me and I started to admire him, especially since it doesn't seem like he minds getting to know us girls without being weird about it. I slowly developed a crush. At first, I thought maybe he wanted to be friends with all of us. But slowly, it became obvious that he only had eyes for one girl in our group, let's call her Kayla. He'd bring her pastries, said he made them from a company team events and couldn't finish it all. He would also look for excuses to bump into her at her desk. It slowly seems like Jay and Kayla always seem to be together, even outside of the girl group hangout. He really liked her, and honestly I was crushed. It all happened so fast. I admit I didn't really have any relationship experience before, so I didn't know how to process this crush. I just waited around, hoping that I can find the right time like an idiot. But instead of confessing or even pulling back, I did the opposite. I acted as their wingwoman as another girl and I helped him ask Kayla out, working as like double agents. Maybe I thought that since I cannot be with him, I still want to be their friends. They got together 2/3 into the internship. And everything changed. Our group used to hang out together, but after they became a couple, it was like we stopped existing. I tried to be understanding and told myself that of course couples spend time with each other and that is normal. But it still hurt. I just wanted to feel like I still mattered to them, even a little. After the internship ended, I noticed I couldn't find either of them on Instagram anymore, which made me think they blocked me. I tried my best to be supportive throughout, so I'm not sure why. It could be some bitterness have leaked through, but I guess I just wasn't part of their life anymore. Even typing this out I know how immature I sound, but I have to say what drew off my chest that I wanted to in their world. Recently, I found one of their social media pages. They're still together and actually are thriving with a new launch startup business. This startup idea is something similar to an idea I'd had sitting in my notes for months. To be clear, I don't think they stole my idea. Kayla and I shared a lot of similar interests, so I fully believe she pitched the concept and he helped build it. Still, they're doing so well as their project is getting a ton of traction and setting them up for life. I cannot process why I've been so fixated since I found out that they are doing so well. I keep telling myself that comparison will only hurt me, but I can't stop thinking about them. This isn't the first time I've felt like the extra wheel in someone's story. However, this time, it stings so badly because I have feelings. I keep thinking if only I was prettier, wittier, or that I have found a way to execute my ideas sooner. Now, I feel like they are out of my reach and in a different leagues. I'm sorry for the long post, but I really need to get this off before it consumes me. I'm 24 now and have never been in a relationship before, so all this third wheeling is really getting to me. If you read this far, thank you. It means a lot to me. Let me analyze this story for you. The story begins with a quiet disclaimer. I know this might sound immature. It's a gentle self-dismissal, the narrator trying to brace against judgment while also signaling vulnerability. Right away, we feel the need for connection. This is someone who doesn't have an outlet, who's been holding something in too long. The emotional texture is not immaturity but emotional honesty, and the reader is invited into a confession that's as thoughtful as it is raw. The loneliness bleeds through early. I don't really have anyone to talk to. That line alone echoes through the whole piece. The next paragraph sets up a familiar emotional pattern, being the third wheel, the supportive friend in someone else's life. The language, someone else's story, is striking. It reveals how the narrator sees their own life, as secondary, peripheral, a backdrop to someone else's success or romance. That feeling of being emotionally sidelined is not just situational, it's existential. This isn't about one relationship. It's about a life pattern that has left the narrator feeling unseen and unchosen, which creates a deeper ache than simple jealousy. From here, the narrative moves into the internship, the setting where this most recent emotional wound takes place. The internship provides not only professional experience but also a new social world. The girls bond easily, a found family of sorts. It's important to note that this group is initially a source of joy for the narrator. It reminds us that she is not antisocial or withdrawn, on the contrary, she thrives in friendship and connection. That detail makes the later isolation more heartbreaking. The arrival of Jay marks the beginning of emotional disruption. The narrator is initially drawn to him not for his looks or status, but for his ambition, family values, and respectful demeanor. These are intimate and meaningful qualities to admire, showing that her crush is sincere and emotionally rooted. She doesn't fall for the first guy who walks in, she notices the subtle way he chooses to engage with the group, and more specifically, with her friend Kayla. The admiration is quiet at first, but it builds. Her attraction deepens as she begins to imagine him as someone of substance, not just a fling, but someone who gets her. Then the inevitable shift, he only has eyes for Kayla. The description of his courting gestures, pastries, bumping into her, is subtle but devastating. It's not dramatic, but it's the gradual dawning of heartbreak. The narrator doesn't rage or panic. She watches it happen, powerless, as the invisible boundary between possibility and reality closes. The line "I was crushed" is simple and understated, but it carries enormous emotional gravity because it is so quietly placed. She isn't begging for pity. She's naming her pain plainly. What happens next is a small act of emotional martyrdom. She becomes their wingwoman. This is where the story reveals the narrator's complex emotional depth. Instead of walking away, she chooses to help the person she likes get together with someone else. Why? Because she wants to stay close. Because maybe being near them is better than being entirely excluded. It's the tragic logic of someone who has been taught to accept crumbs in place of affection. This is not immaturity, it's emotional self-sacrifice. And it hurts. Once they're a couple, the social fabric unravels. The group dynamic disintegrates, and the narrator's presence fades into the background. Her feelings are dismissed not by direct cruelty, but by neglect. And somehow, that passive exclusion is even worse. It says, "We didn't even think of you." When she says, "I just wanted to feel like I still mattered to them," it hits like a gut punch. Because isn't that all anyone wants? To feel that their presence has meaning, that they're remembered, wanted, and needed? The next blow comes digitally. They block her on Instagram. The double pain of emotional loss and technological erasure is enormous. Online spaces are not just virtual anymore, they're extensions of our social existence. Being blocked is not just a communication cutoff, it's a symbolic deletion. When she says, "I guess I just wasn't part of their life anymore," it isn't bitter. It's mournful. She's grieving a friendship, a potential romance, a chapter of life that vanished without closure. Then comes the emotional crescendo. She discovers that they're thriving. The couple has launched a startup, one that echoes an idea she had long ago. She's careful not to accuse them of stealing it, which is telling. She's not driven by spite, she's driven by the ache of missed opportunity. Seeing people succeed with a version of your dream, especially people who ghosted you, is like a haunting. She's not just watching them grow together, she's watching them build the future she wanted for herself. That kind of grief isn't jealousy. It's displacement. She ends with an unvarnished self-assessment. "I keep thinking if only I was prettier, wittier." The pain here is rooted not just in romance or lost friendship, it's in a deeper belief that she isn't enough. That she has somehow failed to be worthy of love, success, or presence. These are dangerous, self-eroding thoughts, and the narrator is clearly battling them with every line. The most devastating part might be the quiet despair when she writes, "I'm 24 now and have never been in a relationship before." Not because there's any shame in that, but because to her, it feels like yet more evidence of her outsider status. Her sadness isn't about relationship status. It's about wanting to be wanted. In summary, this is not a story about immaturity, as the narrator fears. It is a story about emotional displacement, the ache of invisibility, and the long-term grief of always being the supporting role in someone else's spotlight. It is also a meditation on identity. Who am I, when my ideas go unrealized, when the people I love move on, when I'm quietly removed from the narrative? What makes this piece powerful is its restraint. The narrator never wallows. She's honest, careful, even empathetic toward the very people who hurt her. That makes the heartbreak more poignant, because she's not asking for pity. She's asking for recognition. "I'm quitting porn. I've been watching it for years. I don't think I'm addicted, but I don't like how it feels when I use it. Last night I downloaded one of those AI chatbot apps that advertises itself as having no filter, and I sexted with an AI. 4 hours. I lost time that I wanted to spend on personal projects and I lost sleep because of it. I spent 4+ hours of my evening saying disgusting things to encode algorithm and I feel awful because of it. I've always thought that integrating AI into porn was an awful idea bound to have horrible consequences, but there was no stopping the industry. It feels like a super potent drug. I tried it, it was amazing, but it wasted so much of my time and energy, and the next day I feel awful about it. That was just the straw that broke the camel's back. For years now I've had a throwaway Reddit account literally just for porn. I would browse porn subreddits, I'd save the ones that I really liked, and I'd keep browsing. I checked today and I think I had over 500 saved posts. Just seeing that and realizing that really made me rethink if I truly wasn't addicted or just in denial. Before that, I've watched so much porn on various sites. I had a note in my phone of my favorite porn stars because I didn't want to create an account to save the videos. It's also just an awful industry of rape, drugs, abuse, and underage girls. I don't want to support it, and also being exposed to that kind of energy, I feel it slowly turns me into a much worse person, as my internal thoughts about the women in my everyday life are full of nasty, disgusting things that I would never utter out loud, but I don't feel like it makes me any better of a person to be thinking them in silence. If the people in my life knew the kinds of things I keep thinking about them, I would lose so many friends. I want to be a clean and virtuous man. I want to find an actual meaningful relationship where I can safely have those intimate experiences with a woman I love instead of flashing pixels of two actors paid to fuck each other. I want to be responsible and not rely on vices to make me feel good. I've gone through this process of acknowledgement and action with my edibles a month ago, and I think it's time I go through this with porn. I have logged out of my NSFW Reddit account and all the saved posts. It was a throwaway and the password is long forgotten, probably was a keyboard smash anyways. I have deleted my note of my favorite porn stars. I have entirely wiped the AI chat app off of my phone, and, if I'm able, I plan to restrict downloading it with a keyboard smash password. And I plan to restrict as many porn sites as I can from my Safari with a keyboard smash password. I don't need this. I don't want this. I'm better off without it. I'm getting rid of it. Let me analyze this story for you. The first paragraph introduces the decision with a powerful simplicity: I'm quitting porn. There's no dramatic flair, just clarity. This opener already sets the tone. This is not a confession aimed at eliciting guilt or sympathy, but a sober, determined reckoning. The narrator immediately rejects the label of addiction, but then admits discomfort with how it makes them feel. That tension between perception and internal reality becomes a major theme. They may not have fit the clinical definition of addiction, but emotionally, they are clearly at a breaking point. The mention of the AI chatbot is especially important. It's the story's inflection point, the incident that pushed the narrator from unease into action. What's striking is not just what they did, but how they reflect on it. The shame is immediate, raw, and self-aware. I spent 4+ hours of my evening saying disgusting things to a code algorithm. That sentence carries more than regret, it carries revulsion. Not just at the act, but at how easily they were pulled in. The self-disgust comes not from prudishness, but from a profound sense of misalignment between who they want to be and what they found themselves doing. It's like waking up after a blackout and realizing you were someone else for a night. There's also a striking shift in tone here, from personal shame to social concern. I've always thought that integrating AI into porn was an awful idea bound to have horrible consequences. The narrator is not just reacting to what happened to them, they're observing a broader cultural collapse, a technological shift that feels like a super potent drug. That metaphor is powerful. It casts AI porn not just as a novelty, but as something inherently dangerous. Something engineered to be irresistible, but fundamentally dehumanizing. The next paragraph expands this shame into the past. Suddenly, this isn't just about one night of AI-fueled sexting, it's about years of habitual consumption. The narrator recalls the throwaway Reddit account, the saved posts, the folders, the notes in their phone. All small acts that add up to a life quietly shaped around a vice. And here we see another powerful emotional shift, denial unraveling. The narrator begins to realize they weren't just a casual viewer. They were organized. Invested. Maybe even dependent. That realization is crushing, but it's also liberating. It's the hinge moment between secrecy and truth. Then the post takes an ethical turn. The narrator pulls back the curtain not only on their behavior, but on the industry itself. It's also just an awful industry of rape, drugs, abuse, and underage girls. There is deep moral disgust here, not just with the product, but with its implications. This is not a man who simply wants to feel better. This is someone who is coming to terms with the idea that their consumption has real-world consequences. That every click supports a system of exploitation. The line about how this exposure slowly turns me into a much worse person is brutally honest. It's not just what they watched, it's who they became. The mention of intrusive, degrading thoughts toward women in real life hits hard. It is not a boast, it is a confession. And it is an act of courage to say, this darkness lives in me, and I want it out. The emotional depth deepens here. The narrator imagines what would happen if the people in their life knew what they were thinking. That's a haunting idea. It goes beyond shame, it hints at moral self-exile. The pain isn't just about secrecy, but about a fracturing of identity. I'm someone they care about, but if they saw this side of me, they wouldn't. That's not self-pity, it's the voice of someone yearning to be whole again. Then, something beautiful happens, a shift from despair to vision. I want to be a clean and virtuous man. That sentence radiates with yearning. There is no irony, no cynicism, just a clear, almost old-fashioned moral desire. The narrator wants not just sobriety, but integrity. A return to innocence, or at least to honesty. And there's a tenderness in the next line. I want to find an actual meaningful relationship where I can safely have those intimate experiences with the woman I love. The word safely is crucial. It signals not just physical safety, but emotional sanctity. A desire for connection that is real, not manufactured by pixels or scripts. The mention of quitting edibles a month ago strengthens the narrator's arc. It shows this isn't a one-off impulse but part of a broader inner transformation. They are in the process of reclaiming their autonomy from anything that dulls, numbs, or distorts their sense of self. That's incredibly powerful. This is not a story about repression. It's about liberation. The final paragraphs detail the concrete steps taken: logging out of Reddit, deleting the AI app, erasing the notes, setting password protections. These are not just actions, they are rituals of self-respect. Acts of cleansing. Each step is a symbolic break from the past. The repetition of "I don't need this. I don't want this. I'm better off without it" is not just a mantra, it's a reclamation. It sounds like someone tearing down a wall brick by brick, finally seeing the light beyond it. In summary, this post is not just about quitting porn, it is about reclaiming the self. It is about confronting a quiet, corrosive shame that has built up over years and choosing to be better, to be cleaner, to be more present in life and relationships. It is about naming the darkness without flinching and then choosing the light. The most admirable quality here is not perfection, but honesty. This narrator is not posing as a saint. He is someone who has seen how far he's strayed from the man he wants to be and is taking real steps to close that gap. That is not weakness. That is strength. My best friend of 7+ years blocked me for the second time and it absolutely destroyed me. Hey Reddit, I don't really use this site much, but what happened has been eating me up inside and I just kinda needed to get it out of my system and figured here would be a good place after hearing about this subreddit from YouTube Reddit story videos. Shout out to Smosh and to Hot Takes. Back in 2017 to 2018, while playing Destiny 2 back when it was actually good, I, 31M, along with my friend group at the time met my now ex-best friend, 33M, let's call him G. We had picked him up while looking for people to do a raid and we all clicked. He vibed with our whole group and slowly he integrated more into our gang until he was one of the boys, if you will. G was and still is genuinely one of the best guys I've ever met, a true salt of the earth kinda guy. Over time me and him got to know each other quite well. We'd talk every day, usually play stuff together, typical friend stuff, but we also started to confide in each other a lot, always be there to give the other advice or just be there for each other during a rather tough time. Just kinda be that type of therapist friend anyone could go to speak their mind and feel like their concerns were heard. Me and him were the dads of the friend group, for lack of a better term. A major point in our friendship came in late 2021, due to some decisions G made when he was younger that I will not go into detail about here as they are very personal. He had warned us back in 2020 that eventually he would have to go away for a while because of those decisions, and during that time he would obviously be unable to talk or do stuff with us. He regretted the actions of his younger self, came to terms with the consequences long ago and just wanted to be upfront about it with us since we had grown close as friends and felt we deserved to know, which honestly made us respect him more. It was a shock at first, but it didn't change how we viewed him, and in late 2021 he had to leave to start his time away. Because we had become so close over the years, while G was away he had added me to his list of people he'd be able to talk to while he was serving his time. We'd email every week, usually multiple times, and have one phone call, or for 15 minutes we'd shoot the shit and I'd give him updates about how the group is doing, what's been going on, updates and patch notes for the games we played ECT, and I in turn would relay the info about how he's doing and what his thoughts about the game updates and stuff were to the group at large. This went on for about a year until late 2022 when he was released. At this point I feel it should be prevalent to mention, since it will come up in a bit, that me and G had a sort of running joke, or we would be kinda toxic to each other. Crude bro humor I guess would be the term, if that even is a thing. It's not. Some examples. When one of us joined VC, well, who TF invited you? calling each other fuckhead, loser, etc., in messages or in call. Responding to something small and mundane like dropping a piece of paper with stuff like FFS this is why no one likes/loves you. Or kicking each other/leaving our friend group Discord server as a joke when a joke bombed or someone said something and we'd fake be offended. Blocking each other after someone says something stupid. Everything was said in jest and we never meant any of it genuinely, but over time it started to take its toll and we both agreed to try to refrain from doing it so much, if not just cut doing it altogether, but old habits die hard. Jumping ahead to November 2024, I was looking through my Steam games trying to decide what I wanted to play and noticed G and a few other of our friends were playing Civ 6, a game that we had all tried to play together earlier that year, but I wasn't really vibing with it due to being so used to Civ 5 and was also kind of vocal about my dislike of the game. After seeing them all playing it and was feeling a bit lonely, I thought fuck it, I didn't really give it a fair chance, so I wanted to give it another shot, plus I like doing stuff with my friends, so I messaged him and was like, "Hey man, saw y'all were playing Civ 6, could I join y'all? Or if not, would y'all mind if I hung out in VC and just vibed while I play my own thing and hang with you guys?" He responds with, "Hey, it's our other friend game so I can't add anyone, sorry," which I'm like, alright cool, NP and I are in our Discord and say, "Hey, insert what I sent to G here, would you mind if I joined?" And instead of our replying, G does, and just flat out says effectively, "No you can't, stop asking." I get pissed the fuck off, because not only is he replying to a message that wasn't directed towards him, not only is he answering for our instead of them answering themselves, not only did he just say less than 2 minutes ago to me directly, "It's not my game to decide," but also because we literally had the same exact scenario happen the week prior, if not a few days prior, where I asked her something about a game and it plays out almost exactly the same way, not to mention after the first time the other week I had messaged him like, "Hey TF was that about?" And after talking about it, it seemed like we both had solved our issues after hashing it out, but clearly that was not the case. Cut to my mistake. I make the poor decision in the heat of the moment of kicking G from the server after having a back and forth with him in our group Discord text chat. I immediately sent a re-invite to him because I instantly felt regret for doing it after cooling off since I let my emotions get the better of me, but he blocked me before it could send. I'm like, alright, we've done this before, it'll blow over in a bit, we just need time to cool off, everything will go back to normal. Weeks pass. At this point I'm starting to worry because I wasn't expecting things to blow up this way, especially when everyone in our group knows I didn't mean anything by it and we all just chalked it up to me and his running joke, especially since we didn't really do it for a few months. So I asked her if he could send G a message for me since he still has me blocked. I wanted to apologize to him and also thank him for, despite us having our spat at the moment, he still put in a good word for me when the job I applied for called him, since I had put him down as a reference before everything happened and he knew how badly I needed it since I was out of work since the pandemic hit. R said sure and he became my liaison to send him my apology. A week later, around mid-December 2024, G unblocks me and sends me a message along the lines of, "Hey man, I'm glad you got that job, I'm happy you were able to get a win for once since you deserved one after everything. Just because I know you're gonna ask, I'm not gonna be coming back to the group for a while, I kinda just wanna focus on some life stuff, so I'll leave you unblocked, but just give me some space." Hearing from him honestly felt good after all the time since everything happened and I mainly left him alone. Through the rest of December 2024 to around March 2025 it was mainly silence with an occasional, "Hey, hope things are good on your end, K-by" type message here and there from me or a funny meme I thought he'd like. I did have to break the limit at one point because her wasn't doing so good with their life situation, so I shot him a message saying, "Hey, can you check in on her for me, they're not doing so well and I feel like you would be better suited to suggest some things to him for help because I don't have any good experience other than just being someone to vent to, but you might actually have a really good piece of advice to give, so if you could I'd appreciate it." After that I tried to keep my distance, though a few more "just checking in, hope you're doing well" posts happen every other month and a half. All the while are now in a better situation was helping me coordinate with G and another friend who I was having some issues with, and it seemed like things were slowly starting to heal and get better between us. That is until a few weeks ago. Around my birthday a few weeks ago at the time of writing this I was trying to organize plans with a few friends for the day proper. In my hectic typing back and forth and jumping from one DM to another I had accidentally typed a message to G thinking they were someone else since they were around the top of my Discord DMs still. After realizing I had hit send I tried to type up another quick message. "OMG, sorry, I didn't mean to send you the..." But I noticed a pop-up message saying the last one didn't go through due to some connection with the receiver and my heart just sank. I knew that the only reason that pop-up was there was because he had blocked me again, and sure enough my fears were confirmed when I checked and that was exactly what happened. I don't know when he did it or why. To my knowledge everything was fine on both ends. R had told me not even a week or so prior things were good, so I genuinely don't know what happened or if I did anything. Part of me thinks that G remembered that my birthday was getting close and that I might reach out on or near the day with another message along the lines of, "Hey, as a birthday present, can we be friends again?" Which I won't lie I was thinking about doing, but I chose not to since I didn't want to ruin all the hard work I put in and didn't want to screw up anything. That might just be my insecurities or depression talking, which I struggle with a lot from time to time, but I won't lie, the coincidence and timing of things feels a bit strange. Overall, I just feel crushed, defeated, and empty inside. She was genuinely my closest and best friend, and to have our 7+ year friendship end over something small and stupid like this just makes me feel worse, and it kills me inside, especially after things were looking like they were on the path to be mended. If you made it this far, thank you for reading. It feels good to finally just put this somewhere instead of keeping it bottled up and letting the pressure build. I just really needed to just vent. While I hope we can somehow fix our friendship, part of me feels like I should just give up hope and move on, since the whole reason all this happened is entirely my fault. But if I can just let it all go, I'll try to move on, I guess, but I'll hold on to a little hope that maybe things will get better. On a final note, I doubt you'll ever see this, but if you somehow do, G, I truly am sorry for everything that happened. I didn't think any of this would happen after what happened that day. I let my emotions get the better of me, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't regret it. You were like a brother to me, and I loved you. After everything that we've been through, the highs and the lows, all the things we confided in each other, the time you were away, that and I was your connection to the rest of the gang, which I thought made our friendship stronger. To the friend group as a whole that we built over the years with some of the best people I could have ever asked for to be a part of my life, for all that to end. 7+ years of friendship, all because of a stupid mistake I wish I could take back. I can't express how deeply sorry I am. One day I hope we can resolve what happened and that we can be friends again, but that is 100% entirely up to you. I'd love the chance to talk things out, but if you truly don't want to and have moved on, then that's something I'm just going to have to come to terms with, and while it will be hard, in the end it's all due to my actions and I'll have to live with that. Thank you for being my friend these past 7 years. You changed my life for the better, and if things truly end here, if nothing else, I wish you nothing but the best, and I hope life treats you well wherever you go from here. Your friend. Unknown. Let me analyze this story for you. This story is a raw, emotionally detailed account of a long-term friendship that slowly fractured under the weight of unresolved tensions, misunderstood intentions, and the limitations of digital communication. It's a powerful narrative that blends vulnerability, regret, and deep emotional attachment, and it offers a striking reflection on how complicated relationships, especially those forged online, can be. Let's break it down in a long-form analysis, addressing the emotional core, interpersonal dynamics, communication failures, patterns of behavior, and psychological undercurrents that define this story. 1. Foundations of the friendship, digital brotherhood and emotional intimacy. Your relationship with G started like many modern friendships, online gaming. What makes this particularly special is how it evolved beyond just a casual connection over shared interests. You became close emotional confidants, what many would describe as emotional best friends or even platonic soulmates. You didn't just share laughs, you helped each other navigate life, pain, stress, and real struggles. The fact that he allowed you to be part of his life during a deeply personal and stigmatized experience, his time away due to past legal issues, speaks volumes about the trust and depth of your bond. Your role as his communicator to the group and as his emotional tether to the outside world likely deepened your attachment and sense of responsibility to him. You didn't just play games together, you carried emotional weight for one another. This sort of emotional interdependence is beautiful, but it can also create a fragility when one side perceives betrayal or abandonment. 2. The communication style, the running joke and the mask of humor. The crude, sarcastic, and toxic bro humor you shared became a recurring theme, a coping mechanism, a way of showing affection while maintaining a humorous, emotionally detached front. However, what's clear is that this style, while once mutual, started to wear thin over time. Both of you acknowledged it, even tried to tone it down, but didn't really change the pattern. Why is that significant? Because humor, especially when rooted in insult or sarcasm, often masks unresolved tension. It becomes a safe way to express resentment or disapproval without breaking the rules of the relationship. In your case, it seems that you both became emotionally tired of the act, but didn't know how to transition the relationship out of that space. So it lingered. This set the stage for misunderstandings to be read in a more hostile or emotionally loaded way than perhaps they were intended. 3. The inciting incident, miscommunication and the breaking point. The November 2024 incident is the key turning point. From your perspective, G overstepped by responding to a question not directed at him and giving you a harsh denial that contradicted what he said moments earlier. Given the buildup of tension and the previous similar situation, this triggered a larger emotional response in you, likely not just because of the moment itself, but what it symbolized, a perceived shift in how he valued or respected you in the group dynamic. Kicking him from the server, even if meant as a knee-jerk emotional reaction, was a concrete action that broke the unspoken rules of your friendship. Even if your dynamic included jokingly kicking/blocking each other, the emotional context had changed. It no longer felt like a joke, it felt like rejection. This incident was your friendship's crisis point, where what we used to be able to joke about no longer applied. 4. Attempt at reconciliation, a fragile, one-sided recovery. After the fallout, you took steps to apologize and reconnect. What's telling is that he responded, acknowledged your apology, and even kept the door open, albeit guardedly. That's a strong indication that he still cared and perhaps wanted to believe the friendship could be salvaged. However, it was clear he needed space, real space, not just fewer messages, but a break from the emotional expectations. While your intentions were good, checking in, sending memes, helping etc., your occasional messages may have violated the emotional distance he requested. Even well-meaning contact can feel like pressure when someone is trying to detach or process. This is one of the most poignant tensions in your story. Your pain wanted connection, his pain wanted distance. 5. The second block, finality, confusion, and the grief of ambiguity. The second block, discovered accidentally around your birthday, hits especially hard because it's ambiguous. There's no dramatic confrontation, no message, just silence. It leaves you questioning everything, which is emotionally brutal because there's no closure. It disrupts the healing process. It reopens the wound of abandonment. You even explore possible reasons, e.g., him anticipating a birthday message, but acknowledge these could be projections of your own fear and hurt. This self-awareness is important. It shows emotional maturity, but it doesn't make the pain any less real. 6. Guilt, regret, and the weight of self-blame. A major emotional current here is your self-blame. You repeatedly acknowledge your own mistakes, the kick, the messages after being asked for space, the birthday DM, and express deep regret. While it's admirable that you take responsibility, it's also important to notice the pattern of overowning the blame. Yes, you made mistakes. But relationships are never one-sided. G had agency, choices, and also contributed to the breakdown. He could have communicated more clearly, told you directly what he needed, or given you a more defined boundary instead of silence and a block. Instead, the friendship slowly died of misalignment and quiet withdrawal. Your mourning of this relationship is not just sadness, it's grief, and grief is nonlinear, confusing, and full of what-ifs. 7. The letter at the end, a eulogy of friendship. The final section, the letter to G, is beautiful, heartfelt, and painful. It reads like a eulogy, not of a person, but of a living relationship that mattered deeply. It encapsulates the depth of your bond and the devastation you feel from its collapse. What makes this letter particularly powerful is that it admits wrongdoing, shows gratitude, leaves the door open without demanding reconciliation, accepts the possibility of permanent loss. This is mature and generous. You're not asking G to forgive you, you're saying you hope he will, but will understand if he doesn't. It's vulnerable and honest, and it brings emotional closure for yourself, even if G never sees it. I got in a crash, humiliated myself at a police station, and somehow got a trophy for it. This happened earlier this year on my first official day as a licensed school bus driver. Actually, scratch that, it happened before my day even technically started. I had just gotten my school bus license less than 24 hours earlier after 7 intense days of crash course training. This was supposed to be my first real pickup. My trainer, a 20-year veteran, was riding along to shadow me one last time before signing me off. Before we even pull out of the yard, he turns to me and goes, "You got your license on you?" Weird question, I thought. In hindsight? Maybe the man felt a disturbance in the force. We leave the yard. I'm driving carefully, about a minute away from the first pickup. Nervous but excited. Feeling good. We approach a T intersection, beside where my poop story would end up happening months later. A pedestrian is crossing in front of us, so I stop and sit there waiting to turn right for a good 30 seconds. Then I let off the brakes, gently tap the gas to roll forward and bump. I immediately think, great, you screwed up the off-tracking and curbed your bus, dummy. Trainer doesn't even pause. Just goes, "Oh my God, we just got hit." Dead serious. Zero hesitation. We step out, and sure enough, a teenager has absolutely stuffed the hood of her Hyundai under the ass of the bus. Her front end is destroyed. The bus looks like it shrugged and said, "You good?" Because it's a school bus, even if it was empty, which we were, we legally have to call it in. Cops must attend every accident involving a bus. No exceptions. So now I'm standing on the side of the road, next to a crumpled Hyundai, while my trainer, total pro, keeps checking on me every 30 seconds. "You okay? You good? You okay? This wasn't your fault." Honestly, he handled it like a champ, but he was clearly concerned. In all those years, he'd never had an accident of any kind. Meanwhile, I'm trying to keep my pilot brain from kicking in, because I've seen a lot worse and I'm already mentally filing this under that was a minor inconvenience. We're outside exchanging info with the teen while waiting for the cops to show, but I couldn't stay there. I actually walked away from the scene, physically stepped out of view and hid near the front of my bus, hands on my head, just shaking it and laughing to myself like, only you. This would only happen to you. Eventually, a cop shows up, clears the scene, and tells us to drive to the station to file everything. We get there. I pull into the parking lot. Crooked as hell. Whatever. Trainer gives me one last warning. Careful getting out. You parked kind of bad. I nod, step off the bus, and immediately eat shit in front of the police station. Hard. Full faceplant. Right onto the pavement. In front of the police station, in front of my trainer. Still technically less than 15 minutes into my career. I hadn't even picked up a single student yet. I look up at him. He's just standing there. Not moving. Jaw slightly dropped. No words. Just pure silent what the actual fuck energy radiating from his body. And that's when I break. Still lying there, still in pain, just dying laughing. Because what else can I do at that point? Eventually I scrape myself up, limp into the station, file the paperwork, and somehow survive. Got back to the yard, got into my car, closed the door, and laughed hysterically for 20 minutes straight. That kind of broken, wheezing, existential laughter that only comes when the universe pulls your pants down and pushes you into traffic for fun. Fast forward a few months, my trainer ended up using my faceplant as a safety lesson in a company meeting. So now I'm not just a memory, I'm a cautionary tale. And then, because apparently the universe has a dark sense of humor, I won Funniest Story of the Year at our company award ceremony. Sometimes life doesn't hand you lemons. It dropkicks you in the face with the whole lemon tree, and then hands you a trophy for it. Let me analyze this story for you. This story is a beautiful collision, pun intended, of chaos, comedy, and self-awareness, unfolding with the kind of timing and irony you usually only find in scripted television. At its core, it's a personal anecdote about failure, but a failure so absurdly catastrophic, so densely packed with misfortune and humiliation, that it transcends embarrassment and becomes strangely empowering. From the opening line, the tone is already dry and self-effacing. I got in a crash, humiliated myself at a police station, and somehow got a trophy for it. It's a title that encapsulates the entire arc in one breath, but still invites the listener to buckle up for the details. The narrative begins right before the narrator's first official day as a school bus driver, and immediately sets up a sense of nervous optimism. They've just completed a week-long crash course training, a term that becomes darkly ironic almost instantly, and now they're ready to prove themselves. The presence of the veteran trainer adds to this dynamic, someone with decades of experience watching closely, the kind of figure who often appears in stories as either a mentor or a witness to disaster. That small, seemingly innocuous moment, "You got your license on you?" lands in hindsight like thunder. It's the sort of ominous question that retroactively feels prophetic, turning the trainer into a silent Greek chorus for the chaos that follows. The crash itself is described with masterful understatement. The narrator thinks they've curbed the bus, only to discover they've been rear-ended by a teenage driver who managed to wedge her car beneath the tail end of a literal tank on wheels. The physical mismatch between the Hyundai and the school bus mirrors the thematic mismatch between expectation and reality. It's not just a crash, it's a metaphorical rug pull. Everything was going fine, and then suddenly, the universe threw its first punch. What elevates this moment is not just the absurdity of the accident, but how calmly the narrator processes it. Their mental filing cabinet immediately labels it minor inconvenience, as if they're already dissociating from the catastrophe to keep from breaking down. But then comes the real kicker, the legal protocol. Because it's a school bus even empty, the police must be called. It's a cruel bit of bureaucracy that adds a new layer of weight to an already heavy morning. The narrator's response to this pressure is both telling and human. They physically step away from the accident scene just to laugh at the sheer ridiculousness of their life. That moment of walking away, hiding at the front of the bus, hands on their head, shaking with disbelief, is more than comic relief. It's a rare and intimate window into someone processing trauma through humor. It's the quiet pause in a comedy sketch, the moment the clown takes off his nose and just breathes. But fate isn't finished yet. Arriving at the police station, the narrator receives one final warning from their ever-patient trainer: "You parked kind of bad." And then, of course, the cherry on top, the faceplant. This isn't just a fall. It's the fall. The narrative culmination of a morning already stacked with professional and personal embarrassment. It's Shakespearean slapstick. What makes this moment brilliant is the way it's handled. The narrator doesn't rush to recover or look for dignity. They lie there, laughing, letting it all wash over them in a wave of absurdity and surrender. It's a cathartic beat that says, yeah, okay, I give up. You win, universe. By the time they limp into the station, fill out the paperwork, and eventually collapse in their car in uncontrollable laughter, the audience has taken the full emotional journey with them, from excitement to disaster to cosmic comedy. That kind of laughter, the broken, wheezing, borderline hysterical kind, is so deeply human. It's what happens when life becomes so absurd you can't cry anymore, so instead, you laugh like you're possessed. That moment in the car is the emotional resolution, the closing note of the internal arc, not defeat, not resilience exactly, but transformation. From trainee to survivor. From rookie to anecdote. And then, just when you think the story's over, it becomes legend. The narrator's trainer immortalizes their fall as a safety lesson, turning embarrassment into institutional memory. And months later, they win an award for Funniest Story of the Year, which is not just poetic justice but a kind of narrative redemption. It's the universe throwing a final wink, hey, at least we made it memorable. This ending reframes the whole ordeal not as failure, but folklore, a story to be told and retold at company parties, safety briefings, and remember when conversations. What gives this story its power isn't just the sequence of events, but how they're told. The narrator's voice is casual, honest, laced with gallows humor and quick wit, but never mean-spirited. There's empathy in how they talk about the teenage driver, respect in how they describe their trainer, and not an ounce of self-pity in how they process their own downfall. It's storytelling that wears its wounds proudly, as if to say, this hurt, but look how ridiculous it was. On a deeper level, it touches something universal, the feeling of trying to start fresh, only to immediately trip over your own shoelaces in front of everyone. We've all been there, metaphorically or literally, on a first day, desperately trying to look competent, only to have the universe remind us that we're human, fallible, and often hilariously unlucky. But very few of us turn that kind of moment into a story as well-paced, sharply observed, and oddly uplifting as this one. In the end, it's not just about falling, it's about how you laugh when you get up. Or at least how hard you laugh while still lying face down on the pavement. And that, ironically, is what makes this story such a win. I had to cut off someone I thought was a friend after learning who she really was. TW children abuse, miscarriage. I'm 27, F, and we'll call her Rebecca, 30, F. I met her through my husband. We live in a small Indiana town, so carpooling helps. One day our tire blew out, and while my husband was trying to find a ride to work, Rebecca offered. She lived 10 minutes away and said she'd carpool for $40 a week. It seemed like a win-win. My husband mentioned she wanted to be friends with me. She'd help him with errands and meds. I'd peek out the door and say hi, but I'm not the type to open up right away. Still, I was open to the idea. On a non-rent weekend after their shift, we decided to hang out and smoke a little devil's lettuce. I dressed nicely, like it was a real outing. I wanted to make a good impression, see if we clicked. Red flag number 1, I fell down the stairs and twisted my ankle. After a minute to gather myself, I greeted her, but she was on the phone with her husband, who's in jail. My husband had told me her man was in jail for things that mean you'll never be around kids again. I didn't judge. Not my man, not my problem. During the hour-long ride, I asked about it. She said she was asleep when the cops came with a warrant. Her man was locked in their shed. Cops used dogs, broke the lock, arrested him. She got arrested for hiding a fugitive. She later said she had cameras around her house to monitor her kids. I asked why she didn't show the footage to prove she didn't know. She just shrugged and said she'd plead guilty and move on. I didn't get it. She told me her kids were taken and she didn't know when they'd be home. I sympathized. I miscarry triplets, I know what it's like to feel that void. But then she said she couldn't relate to my trauma because she had a perfect childhood. Then turned around and said she gave her kids up for adoption because they were carrying waste buckets to the river behind their trailer. None of it made sense. After the ride, I couldn't shake the feeling. I Googled her. I found a news article from last year. Her man was arrested on sentence to 4 years and never be able to see his kids or others. She was charged with obstruction. I asked her about it. She said people turn their backs when they find out. I let it slide, but I never felt right about it. Then I remembered she had court in June. I looked her up. There it was, attempted level 5 felony. So you're a liar too. I kept searching. That's when everything changed. She has pending charges involving minors. Charges that mean she'll never be allowed around children again. I thought about how she cried over missing her kids, about wanting another baby. How she acted like a teenager, not even goofy, just emotionally immature. She treated my husband like gold, but acted like I wasn't worth the dirt on her shoes. Her husband pled guilty. Now they both face new charges. I feel sick. I feel fooled. I feel like I let someone near my home who never should have been there. I've completely cut her off. But there's still that tiny piece of me that feels guilty, like I've become just one more person who turned their back on her. But maybe some people don't deserve your loyalty. Let me analyze this story for you. This story begins with a deceptively simple act of kindness, carpooling, and slowly spirals into something dark, unsettling, and deeply personal. Right from the start, the tone is cautious yet open. You describe Rebecca as someone your husband knew, and in a small town where resources like transportation are communal necessities, it made practical sense to accept her offer. It's a relatable, almost mundane setup, one that subtly reinforces how easily dangerous people can drift into our lives disguised as helpful neighbors or friends of a friend. The first emotional hook isn't alarm, it's vulnerability, as you're trying to be polite, make an effort, and even dress up to meet someone halfway. This humanizes you immediately and sets up a stark contrast with everything that follows. Your first direct interaction with Rebecca is marked by physical pain twisting your ankle, which seems symbolically appropriate. The whole encounter is laced with discomfort. As you gather yourself and try to engage, she's already emotionally elsewhere, on the phone with her incarcerated husband. This moment isn't just awkward, it's telling. Her attention is divided, her priorities elsewhere, and her explanation for his imprisonment feels vague and suspect. The detail that he was hiding in a shed, and that she got arrested for obstruction, is delivered like small talk. It should be shocking, but her flat tone and your hesitation to pry further speak volumes about how people sometimes downplay red flags when trying to give someone the benefit of the doubt. The contradictions in Rebecca's story start piling up almost immediately. She says she has camera footage that could exonerate her, but chose to plead guilty. That alone reveals a chilling apathy or deeper complicity. It's also manipulative. By refusing to clarify, she leaves everyone else stuck between suspicion and sympathy. This moment reflects a broader theme throughout the story, your internal tug-of-war between empathy and instinct. You want to believe her. You want to see the best in someone who claims to be struggling. But her story never adds up. Your own pain, miscarrying triplets, is introduced next, and this is where the emotional contrast cuts deep. You open yourself emotionally, share your trauma, your unimaginable grief, and Rebecca shuts it down. She claims a perfect childhood, invalidating your pain, only to contradict herself seconds later by describing a nightmarish scenario of her children carrying waste buckets behind a trailer. The emotional whiplash here is more than jarring, it's manipulative. She positions herself as both victim and someone above victimhood, depending on what suits her in the moment. This scene is where Rebecca's mask really starts to slip, and you, the narrator, begin to question what you're actually dealing with. The turning point is when you follow your gut and start digging for the truth. Your suspicion leads to hard facts: an article confirming Rebecca's criminal history, her partner's conviction, and most importantly, her own pending charges. This is the moment where intuition meets evidence, and the tone of the narrative shifts from confused sympathy to betrayal and horror. It's not just about what she did anymore, it's about how thoroughly she deceived you. There's a specific kind of shock that comes from learning someone's whole identity is built on lies, and you express that disorientation and disgust with clarity and control. Even more haunting are the pending charges involving minors. This crosses a moral threshold that cannot be ignored. You go from feeling weird around her to realizing she is dangerous, especially around children. Suddenly, everything she said, crying about missing her kids, talking about wanting another baby, takes on a disturbing, sinister edge. The emotional immaturity you observed earlier now reads like stunted, manipulative behavior. Her kindness toward your husband and coldness toward you seems strategic, even predatory. You're no longer dealing with a quirky neighbor. You're confronting someone you wish you'd never allowed near your home. Despite the horror, your story is grounded in a deep, painful self-awareness. You cut her off, as anyone would, but still wrestle with guilt. That quiet line, like I've become just one more person who turned their back on her, speaks to your emotional depth. You don't make excuses for her, but you acknowledge the humanity in feeling conflicted. That guilt is what makes this story land. It's not just about rejecting a predator, it's about the psychological residue of trusting someone who never deserved it. You don't end with triumph or vengeance. You end with a hard truth: maybe some people don't deserve your loyalty. This closing line is profound. It doesn't come from a place of bitterness, but from growth. It's the final realization that empathy must have boundaries, that some bridges burn for good reason, and that protecting your peace is not cruelty, it's survival.